In this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips for purchasing comics in an LCS. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swagglehos. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips for purchasing comics in a comic book store. I guess I could call these lessons because these are all lessons that I've learned myself while participating in this hobby. And hopefully some of this information can be helpful to you guys so that when you guys go visit your comic book store, you can maybe take some of my advice with these tips. But before I get into my 5 tips, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying my content, help support the channel, keeps me motivated, love engaging with you guys, and yeah, overall would help me out. So that being said, let us get into my 5 tips. And my first tip of my 5 is going to be this one right here, which is check wall books and keys first. Check wall books and keys first. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Well, let me tell you a little story. A little story about a comic collector named Swagglehos, who always had his heart set on Amazing Spider-Man 194, first appearance of Black Cat. He was out there looking for this book, trying to find a great deal, trying to find a nice, mint copy that he could hang on his wall behind him because he's always been a fan of the Black Cat character. And one day, Swagglehos walked into a store, and in the corner of his eye, he caught that book hanging on the wall. He even walked slightly up to that book and saw that the price was a reasonable $40 and thought to himself, this is it. This is the day. I'm going to get this book. I see it. I know that I want it. I'm saying I now because the story is breaking. You already know who it is. So I walked around the store because I was like, okay, I have other things I want to get. I see the ASM 194. I want to go pick it up, but I'm going to walk around the store first and I'm going to peruse and I'm going to see if there's anything else I want. And wouldn't you know, while I was walking around about 5-10 minutes later, I hear someone say, hey, could I take a look at that ASM 194? And that's when I turned around, a light bulb went off, and I saw someone else pick up the copy, bring it to the store owner, and effectively make that purchase. So they took the book right from under me. I didn't get my hands on it when I had the chance. So this is my first tip to you guys is when you go into these LCSs, always check those wall books and keys first that, if you have something that you want or something you want to identify, get that book because these are the ones that are presumably rare and hard to find. And if you have that opportunity, you got to jump on it right away. So definitely when you walk into your LCS, start with the wall books, start with the keys. Sometimes LCSs have books that are new keys that have arrived, over the course of the week. I definitely say start there, see what's out there, and see if you can find, one of your grails. All right. So that said, let's check tip number 2. Tip number 2 is going to be see if your comic is in a bargain bin. Right? So see if your comic is in a bargain bin. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times, this rule now pertains to a lot of, filler runs or back issues or maybe new comic books that are about, a few months old or maybe a year old or so. If you're after a certain book that is not brand new on the wall or that is, not a key, maybe it's just a filler issue, before you grab say, an old Donny Cates Venom that is like early in the run that is not a key, before you grab it off the wall where you see it in the new comic book section, go check that bargain bin first because I've been to a lot of comic book stores that take a lot of their excess inventory and they throw it in those bargain bins, but they might still leave a few issues at cover price on the wall. But a lot of times they'll put the back issue stuff in bargain bins. And similarly with older runs, from Bronze and Silver Age and stuff like that, I've actually seen it where if they have excess inventory, they're going to put a lot of that stuff in the bargain bin. So why not pay, $1 instead of 5 if you can? If you happen to spend some time and you just want to flip through really quick, you might see it. And especially the newer stuff is often, I find, is really easy to spot in bargain bins because you could just tell from the texture of the book that it's a new comic, and because usually a lot of it is their excess inventory, they're putting stacks of it in there, so you'll see right off the bat it's like, oh, 10 copies of a Venom, 10 copies of an X-Men book, 10 copies of this. So definitely always check your bargain bins. Why not pay $1 versus 4? All right, that's going to be tip number 3 now. And tip number 3 is inspect your book before you buy. And this might be one of the most important tips I have for you today. Inspect your book before you buy. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, whenever you buy a bunch of books, especially like older books, but this also pertains to new comic books as well, you should always ask the store owner or the store clerk if you can open the book and take a look at it. Never be afraid to do that. Now, some LCSs, some store owners I've interacted with, I've asked them if I could open the book, and they give me an eye roll, and they're like, oh God, like, you know, like as if I don't have a right to take a look at the book that I want to purchase. But, you know, to me, I think it's really important, like, know what you're buying. And look, I really appreciate it when LCS's label on it, they say like, oh, this is a fine, or this is a VG, or whatever it is. But, you know, you should know for yourself. You should know what you're buying. Case in point, I have something right here I want to show you. This was a Incredible Hulk 161. Awesome beast cover. I always wanted this comic book. Walked into an LCS, saw it, and it was listed. It was inside of a bag, and it was listed as a VG. And I was like, oh, that's awesome, listed as a VG. And I did something that I don't normally do, and that's I just ended up purchasing everything, and I didn't end up asking to look at the books. And when I got home and I opened it up, well, what did I find inside of here? Totally detached centerfold. And now it's possible that within grading reasons, I'm not a professional grader, but within grading reasons, you know, a detached centerfold could fit into a VG. But for me personally, I don't want to have books that are like this. And so I wouldn't have purchased it if I knew the centerfold was detached. So always make sure that you open the books that you want to buy and inspect them for yourself. Make sure that there's no cutouts, things like that. And with regards to new books too, you know, sometimes there's misprints on new books, you know, like there's ink smears, or like, you know, in handling, a lot of the corners have been dinged. So if you have a bunch of copies, you might as well grab one that's in perfect shape versus one that is like, you know, has some shelf wear on it. So always inspect your books. All right. Now that's going to lead me to tip number 4, which is going to be understand the FMV of your purchase. So understanding the FMV of your purchase, what does that mean? Really important. When you see a key book in an LCS, sometimes you can find really great deals, but also sometimes they might be slightly overpriced, or at least, you know, more expensive than you would be willing to pay for your book. So whenever you see something that you want to get in an LCS, take a little bit of time, you know, like, everyone's got a phone, open up your phone, just check really quick, check the Go Collect, fair market value, check Key Collector, check eBay, you know, if you want to. That's not to say that if you can find it for $1 cheaper on eBay, you should do that. I mean, definitely support your LCS if you can, you know. I'm always happy to pay a little bit more to support the local business than to buy something off of eBay. But with that being said, you know, just know what you're buying and know what the fair market value is, so that you're not overpaying for something that, you know, on eBay is $5 and you're at your LCS paying $100 for it. So take a little bit of time to do that, to know the FMV. All right. And my last tip of my 5 tips for shopping at LCS is negotiate if possible. Now, I know that this is going to be, you know, annoying to maybe some LCS owners out there, and I'm not encouraging you guys to you know, cause a storm or throw a fit saying like, oh, why would you charge this, blah blah blah, you know. But if you are reasonable and you are someone who is, you know, very nice, and you ask kindly, and maybe you're buying a lot of stuff, so you know, you can work a deal. Because this is secondary market stuff, at least the back issues, you know, and yeah, I'm talking about the back issues and the keys, not the new books. You can't negotiate cover price on new books. So, but if you're buying, you know, back issue stuff, don't be afraid to ask the LCS owner if there's any wiggle room on the stuff that you're purchasing. I mean, wiggle room, I think is a great word to use. You guys should use that very specific word. I feel like it's a very friendly thing to say, like, hey, you know, is there any wiggle room on this comic book here? It's very inoffensive to ask somebody that. So I always ask LCS owners if there's wiggle room, especially if I'm buying a bunch of keys and a bunch of stuff. And a lot of times I think that they are open to negotiate with you in that sense, because sometimes they might have keys that are priced, you know, from a year ago, and maybe they priced them too high, or maybe, you know, maybe they're just happy to get rid of them because they have a bunch, you know, they have a bunch of copies. Usually LCS owners are usually open to negotiating. So always ask for wiggle room. And or offer them cash. You know, if you say, hey, if I pay cash, can I not pay tax or something like that? And some stores won't do that because, you know, they have to run a proper business, but some stores might do that because they're open to it, because this is all secondary market comic stuff anyways. If you can pay cash, helps them out. They don't have to pay tax on the item, and you don't have to pay tax on the item. So anyways, those are my 5 tips for buying comics at an LCS. Things that I've learned over my time in this hobby, a lot of hard lessons that I've had to learn the hard way, and wish I knew when I started getting into the hobby. So anyways, I hope that helps you guys. Let me know, do you guys have any tips of your own when you shop at LCSs? Do you guys find these tips helpful yourself, or did I shed any light on you into the hobby? So anyways, that's all I got for this video. If you could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, really appreciate that, and I will see you in the next one.